Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Politics live on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Well, the current situation in Nigeria leaves much to be desired, especially going by the travails and the experience of the millions of Nigerians who are having to live hand to mouth and, of course, who are unable to also make their ends meet, largely due to the current inflationary trends in the country, the ripple effect that started with the removal of fuel subsidy. Food items are increasingly becoming unaffordable to most Nigerian households as prices of commodities and other services continue to skyrocket on a daily basis. The dystopian situation has put the government on the edge both at national and subnational levels, with most Nigerians opting to protest their grievances and dissatisfaction as well as frustrations of the current situation. Nigeria is currently experiencing a rising cost of living, which for the most part is engineered by, of course, the inability of government to address all of these issues for the past 2 quarters. So, what are we to make of the scale of the problem vis-a-vis the scale of the solution? What does the government need to do right to turn around this situation for the betterment of Nigeria and indeed Nigerians? The most populous black nation in the world is, of course, reeling from this socio-economic impact which continues to inundate the everyday lives and livelihood of most Nigerians. So tonight on the program, we take a deep dive and look at the skyrocketing food prices and the cost of living generally across the country. And to help us analyze some of these issues and bring to light what needs to be done to address them, or in fact, why we are where we are at this moment in time, is Dr. Umar Bindir, the immediate past National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program under the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, now National Social Investment Program Agency. Doctor, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I apologize to the viewers. My voice is really good. Maybe that is also part of the hardship. But yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, and let's first of all start from your 2 cents on the current situation. It appears that we are singing in unison. There's a chorus around what is going on. Even the government is admitting to the fact that, listen, the situation is quite untenable. Nigerians are not smiling, have not been smiling for quite some time, and it appears that the situation is really getting out of hand. Recap this for me in your own words, what you think is going on right now.
Well, interestingly enough, I used to follow His Excellency the President Tinubu's traditional statements on other television stations, calming Nigerians down, promising Nigerians that certainly before you get comfort, there might be a bit of difficulties, but this is going to be for a short time. To me, yes, possibly we were used to, having everything very easy. Our politicking is easy. Our survival is easy, in quotes. Now we are facing reality, the realities of life, in the sense that when oil subsidy was there, a lot of things were happening and people, Nigerians, were taking it that way. Now that you have removed the oil subsidy to stabilize certain aspects of the economy, then the reality is on the ground. People are feeling it to the extent that it is now going down to the level of foodstuff. Now, when you start having things of this nature, it is a very clear indication that Nigeria has to produce not just production, it has to produce good things, adequate enough to look after itself and possibly even to sell. Production generates jobs, right? And when you have a job in production, you also create wealth. And when you create wealth, that is what creates the middle class. So this is the reality as far as I am concerned. These difficulties are very practical, but there are certainly steps that we can take. If we are not taking them already, we have to convert these difficulties into opportunities for development. And of course, as always, as people know me, technically we have to be prepared in the sense that we have to be good at what has to be done. And literally that is it.
I mean, just some months ago, some 8-9 months ago, you were still running the affairs of the National Social Investment Program, which by design is supposed to target some of the issues we're discussing right now, poverty, hunger, unemployment, and things like that. Why does it appear that all the shock absorbers that we've put in place has not prepared us for this worst case scenario that we're dealing with right now?
Well, you see, poverty is a dynamic thing. Poverty doesn't stop that you solve it and you say goodbye. Numbers of people coming into poverty, you have to determine that. Numbers of people that you have taken out of poverty, you have to determine that. Numbers of people that you have in poverty, you have to know that. So tackling poverty, particularly in our experience, I was not just involved in NSIP. I was part of the management team of FIP under Abacha, doing exactly the same thing. We transited into NAPEP, doing exactly the same thing. And then gradually we dovetailed into this NSIP. And the secret of tackling this is that you have to have information and data. You have to be evidence-based. And to be evidence-based, you have to have the manpower, the right manpower. Not just the manpower, the committed manpower to constantly be evidence-based and be able to deploy these things. So, but with the transition, with the changes of administration, which is traditional in the way we do things, we slowed down a little bit. In poverty alleviation, when you slow down, it swarms you over, right? It is like bees following you. If you're running, you'll feel like you're getting comfortable. But I can tell if you stop, the bees will just swarm you. So that is what we're feeling now, in my opinion. As far as NSIP is concerned, we have transited and stopped. And so the whole thing now is piling up, plus other things that are creating poverty. And then the whole thing seems to be felt by so many people that people are thinking that Nigeria actually is in trouble.
And talking about that trouble, we've seen pockets of protest across the north, across the southern part of this country, people expressing their displeasure, there's a dissatisfaction with the way things are going right now. Mainly angry at the national level, but you also get a sense that the sub-nationals are also failing to fill in the gaps. Talk to me about what you make of the interventions that were supposed to be rolled out in the aftermath of the removal of fuel subsidy. They were supposed to be, the stopgap that allows Nigerians to, heave a sigh of relief and say, okay, we're transitioning slowly but surely out of the subsidy regime, because much of that has not been felt over the past few months.
Well, you see, systems are dynamic in real time. Unfortunately, where we are now is the dry season, right? We are not in production now, okay? Secondly, if you are
just a few months after the harvest season.
Well, you see, that is
some are even harvesting their crops in a few weeks from the dry season.
I know, but you see, there are so many factors. Number one, you've removed oil subsidy, and therefore a lot of effects on the removal is being felt by people. People need more money, people don't have money, and so on and so forth. So they feel it. Secondly, the dollar to the naira. Naira is getting weaker. Therefore, you need a lot of naira to acquire traditional things that you traditionally will buy. And therefore, again, people are feeling it. Third is the dry season. A lot of farmers are not in the field now. So even if you produce what you are harvesting, you have challenges. Four, even the World Bank, I'm sure you must have read the papers, predicted that there are 9 or 12 states that are going to be in serious hunger challenges this year, including Adamawa State, and so on. So when you mix all this, you find that when you're impatient and people are impatient, they try to now scream on the government. Unfortunately, most of the screaming is done on the federal government. But state governments are feeling it too. I know I read yesterday that His Excellency, the Governor of Niger State, took a step to say that there is no bulk buying of grains or foodstuff from Niger State. Anybody who comes to cut tons of food out of Niger State, stop him. So all this that basically is the food issue. So to me, it's a signal that we have to do things differently.
Right. Okay. Speaking of what the states are doing differently to address this, we've seen so many take the proverbial bull by the horn to try to mitigate the surge in the price of food commodities like the grains, for instance, rice, maize, millet, and all those grains that used to be affordable to the everyday households in the country. Well, in Kano, for instance, the Anti-Graft Commission has taken it a step further by going around town to see for themselves what is going on regarding food security as well as availability of some of those commodities. So we're just going to show you some pictures now and also hear from the chairman of that Anti-Corruption Commission to just get a sense of what they're trying to do in Kano to address what they say is hoarding of some of the food items. As you can see, some of the warehouses being shut down. I'd love to get your take on this one, Doctor, as to whether this is a panacea for us getting out of this whole mess with rising food inflation. I mean, recently, rice is as high as 77,000 naira per bag now in some of those states across the country. So this is an instance from Kano, and we've heard so many other states say, listen, we're going to take this route. There are so many middlemen, so many bulk buyers who are exploiting the current situation right now. What is your take on steps like this, where warehouses are storing all these grains, apparently to make the most out of this dire situation?
Well, you know, business traditionally, private sector is a profit making system, but certainly is being regulated by a government. Yes, some of these things are true. People will see opportunities of making money and they will hold and wait until when things are really, really tough, and then they will release it. Especially now when you are hearing that we're going to get government, state governments, federal government are going to start purchasing food to release it further to people. So some of these entrepreneurs believe that a time will come when they will start looking for this and they will hold it. And that's why I think in Kano State they're taking steps. But to me, yes, these are short-term things, but the long-term things to happen is to prepare towards the rainy season. You know, we must be able to ensure that as far as food is concerned, do we identify our farmers? Do we have the information about where our farmers are? What kind of crops are we going to produce? Do we have support for them ready?
Well, what do you say to people who say we can't have this conversation when we can't guarantee security across board, 24/7, that without security, any sort of conversation around agricultural development is futile?
All that is part of the package. You have to make sure that you now look into the security issues to make sure that it's less for farmers to go to their farms. You must make sure that inputs are available for farmers in good time so that they can go back to the farms well. If there are bigger farms, you must ensure that mechanization inputs are ready so that we don't get to rainy season and then we're talking about this and then we miss the opportunity of ensuring that massively people actually go back to the farms. So yes, while these type of efforts in Kano are going on, efforts in Niger State are going on, there are normal things to ensure that people understand that government is doing things. But we must be able to take measures to ensure that this next farming season becomes easier for farmers. Let them produce more. Let them have storage facilities. Let them have...
But you look at, say, for instance, a warehouse like this, and, you know, no offense to the businesses, right? You know, in critical times like these, even when we hear the government talks about, you know, opening up the reserves, releasing X amount of metric tons of grains into the market to flood it. I mean, this is still ongoing. You have a lot of these big businesses that mop up the grains and create this artificial scarcity that ends up exacerbating an already critical situation. Do you think that, you know, the government is not as hands-on, especially with regards to food inflation at this time?
This is telling us to face the challenges of our food supply differently. You know, everybody who has actually packed this, it has happened in the open. the collation of the foodstuff, the bagging and the packaging, the storage facilities. So now Nigeria has to go, in my opinion, very, very digital and evidence-based. We must be able to now document everything that is happening in our country. When the production time comes up, we must know these farmers. What are they producing? When will is it be released? When people are harvesting, all these trucks. I mean, I'm sure you too, you go. Sometimes when I drive from Gombe to Yola, you see hundreds of trucks actually leaving Yola with foodstuff. But when you ask for the data of these trucks, what they are carrying, the quantum, where they are heading off, at what price have they picked it up, at what price are they selling, you don't get that information. It means we have to change. There are a lot of people who are taking advantage of the very low level of know-how of the farmers, mopping everything up at pittance, and then taking it through, either processing it or repackaging it, and then making maximized economic gains based on the ignorance of the value chain of the farmer. So Nigeria has to change different. No country can survive continuously doing this, where the middleman is actually the richest man. He never goes to the farm. He does not know farm input. He doesn't have difficulties to do with season and so on and so forth, but he is the one making the money. And you see farmers who are producing on 2 hectares, 3 hectares, they are producing for the last 50 years. That is what they are doing. And they don't have anything. Their children don't go to school. Their wives don't go to healthcare centers to deliver. Their houses are not good. This gap is actually based on lack of information of the systems and the value.
And I suppose, as the immediate past national coordinator of the NSIP, what is happening right now would have basically eroded some of the gains that
of course,
must have been made over the years.
Of course. I mean, with the experience of NSIP, I can tell you, flooding, just flooding, totally will take you back like 20, 30, 40%. When we had COVID, people were driving their keke nappies, markets were open, women are selling their vegetables, and so on and so on. Then you had COVID, and then they closed down the markets, right? Instantly, the keke nappy man dropped into poverty. The women who are selling vegetables dropped into poverty, and then you had a surge. Similarly, you had children in school before COVID. COVID came, all schools were shut down, and then literally you have in quote so much out of school children, all over the place, requiring more food and so on. So shocks of this nature can actually totally undermine your efforts to actually control it. That is why in poverty alleviation, you don't stop. And you cannot joke with it. You have to constantly be tracking it. In this country, we have 774 local governments. You must know what is happening in every single local government. We have nearly 9,000 wards. You must know what is happening in every ward. Primary schools, you must know all the primary schools in this country in one database. Primary healthcare, you must know all of them. Do they have doctors? Do they have not doctors? These schools, do they have headmasters who are qualified? These things has to be on your dashboard all the time. It's not just, go and share rice and so on and think you are doing something. No. To counter these kind of things that you see happening now, it is really a clarion call for us to change the way we do things, at least the managers of this, and be able to connect the federal expertise might and the state expertise, and then connect it together so that you have a value chain of technical deployment to control these difficulties.
What do you make of how the government at federal and the state level is handling this situation right now? If at all it has been handled, because last year, July, the federal government announced an state of emergency on food security. And here we are today talking about how insecure Nigerians are with regards to food prices and availability, because in some cases it's about how there's a hike in the price of the commodity. In other cases, it's not even available in the markets anymore. I mean, your maize now is no longer available for most communities to buy. Give me a sense of how the situation is currently being handled with all the committees that have been set up to address the problem.
Well, you see, the challenge literally with all these structures is that in our country, we always talk about money. We think money does all these things. Yes, money is a catalyst to actually ensure that things happen. Money in itself doesn't happen. You remember, when we were doing the palliative thing, state governors came and said, give us the money. It is always about money. And two, we never monitor, evaluate, and impact assess these things that we do. We never go back to actually say, okay, we gave you 2 billion or 5 billion. Give us a clear report on Trust TV. I have taken my 2 billion naira. I have gone to Wuse Market. I have bought 10 tons or 100 tons or 1,000 tons of rice at so price. It means Nigerians who are operating in Wuse Market has benefited from this because of the circulation of. I have taken this and transported it to so many local governments. The transporting people also benefited. I've shared it to these families, documented. But we always talk about money, and money will never, ever be enough. So as far as I'm concerned, again, these things are happening, giving us the clarion call that first, the Ministry of Digital Economy must ensure that digitalization, not just at federal level, connected to the state level, becomes a second nature for our country. Two, the Federal Office of Statistics, or the National Bureau of Statistics under Planning Commission, must now ginger the statistics to go digital again, not something that is hidden. You know, the criteria for collecting information, where the information. Three, coordination and partnership must be very, very solid. No one can do these things by themselves. The federal government cannot handle it by itself. The state governments cannot survive by themselves. The local government cannot. There has to be a very clear synergy. Otherwise, when we are doing these spot checks, a lot of money will go. We will not have information on what we've done, and the problem will just continue crossing and multiplying. And
when you look at some of the solutions that have been, put forward right now, price control is one of those popular opinions out there from the various school of thoughts. And recently, one of the most popular, if not the most popular, human rights activist and lawyer, Femi Falana, secured a judgment that we'll wait to see as the time elapses. 7 days was given by a federal high court in Ikoyi, Lagos State, to the federal government to address the price control based on the provisions of the Constitution that, the government should control the price of so commodities, especially when it comes to foods, some of the petroleum products, as well as vehicular parts and so on and so forth. Give me a sense of whether this is enough stimulus to force the hand of the government to step in and say, listen, we know that you need to make your profit, but keep it as low as ABC. Let's have a price ceiling for some of these commodities that Nigerians need on a daily basis, because these protests seem to be multiplying and seem to be popping up across the country. And I dare say it is going to threaten the security of this country that we're already struggling with.
Well, Abdullah, I remember we've discussed about the subsidy issue some months ago. Government is not a profit-making system. Government is a socio-economic service system, social system. It does not do things to get profit. And when you do that, you must be able to now play what I call the fisherman model. Fish doesn't look at you from the sea to say, oh, Abdullah is very handsome, let me jump into his tray so that he can fry me and eat me and be happy. Fish don't do that. You deceive the fish with a worm, and then fish thinks it's cheating you. It catches it, and then you catch the fish. Look, if I have a business and I'm producing and selling tomatoes, right? And you have no role in my land preparation, in my seedlings production, in my variety selection, how I do my greenhouses until I produce the tomato. I look at all my input, my staffing, my transportation, and I put the price, and then you come as a regulator, you say, no, that price is not acceptable, put it down. You have run me out of business. I cannot go ahead and produce tomatoes again.
I mean, but surely it looks like the industry is unchecked. It looks like there's no regulation.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is the connection. If, for example, I have access to some kind of subsidy to do with my seeds, to do with my fertilizer, even though I'm privately operating it. In the UK, there's something called set-aside agriculture. Farmers are paid money not to produce on certain pieces of land to allow the land to regenerate. Because if government says, no, this land is getting infertile or whatever, stop it, farmers will go on strike. So they will say, okay, If you were to farm, you will get $90. We are going to give you $60 without farming at all. Leave it to regenerate because we need you in this industry. So there's a lot of other stakeholders who have to come in to ensure that.
Are you saying all the interventions, whether it's through the Anko Boros program or everything that we've seen over the past couple of months? I know the Minister of Agriculture was recently speaking to the Senate, and he said the past administration didn't make plans for the rainy season, and that in itself is one of the reasons why we're seeing this low harvest or limited amount of food in the market, creating this scarcity that is spiking up the price of some of these grains. Do you think that all the interventions that we have, that we're spending billions and billions of naira on, do not count in terms of the interventions that you're talking about?
I think it would have been nice if you put the question the other way around. You put an intervention of billions and billions of naira, you should know the interventions. You should know where the interventions went to. You should know the impact of the interventions. And then where there are cracks, you seal the cracks. But you cannot just say, that is, again, takes us back to money. We just say, we pumped in billions and we expect miracles to happen. And one of the...
You don't think it's a money problem? You don't think it's...
I don't think so. Look, let me tell you. This country has over, between 70 to 80 or so federal universities. Ask federal universities, how are the federal universities connected, for example, their faculties of agriculture, to farmers? That is where the knowledge is. We are funding this. They go on strike, they do this, a number of students are coming out, but when it comes to farmers, you find that farmers are not connected. It's not the fault of the universities, it is our system. So we must be able to review this system to ensure that subsidy does not necessarily mean money. Free money, take money. Subsidy could be like University of Maiduguri. All the farmers of wheat are in the Maiduguri area will every year get 3 free training from the agronomy department of Federal University of Maiduguri. That is subsidy, government subsidy. Government makes sure that the university is functional, their farms are functional, their laboratories are functional, their seed understanding is functional, their experimental farms are available to farmers. This is what will make a farmer produce, and then now you can control price. But when you leave the farmer on his own, he is not getting training, he is not getting seeds, he is not getting fertilizer, and he struggles to, he is also hit by the costly fuels. And then he produces his own baskets of tomato. And then you say, no, you cannot sell it at 100 naira, sell it at 50. I don't think that will go down very well.
Right, okay. Our phone lines are now open. You can chime in with your thoughts, with your views regarding this. I reckon that every Nigerian has an opinion or two about the food inflation or generally the rising cost of living in the largest economy on the African continent. But let's head back to Kano and hear the thoughts of the anti-graft SAR in Kano regarding that supervisory role that the Commission has taken to ensure that traders and businessmen in the food supply industry are playing fair and not exploiting the situation to the detriment of residents in the second most commercial city in Nigeria. Let's hear his thoughts.
And today, because we have started in this following day after we had a press conference with you.
Last Thursday.
That was last Thursday. And we have made a significant impact towards, stopping the rise. Because, we have experienced the instant rise in the price of essential commodities. Within a week, rice has jumped from 52,000 to 61,000 within a week. So that is why we swing into action. And alhamdulillah, as from yesterday, from what we are hiding, and after this, we are going to the market to ascertain what is happening. We were able to stop the instant increase. That is number one. That is a major landmark achievement. Number two, we have believed that if we sustain the tempo, we will be able to bring down the prices, inshallah, within no time. So as you can see now, we have gone around the warehouses. We meet series of issues, which after we go back to the office, we are going to digest it. But one fundamental thing is, virtually each and every store we entered, they will be claiming that it is a World Food Program stores. We wonder if a world food program will starve the country while taking the food somewhere else. You can see where I was told here today, within 1 month, the price of maize has jumped from 30,000 to 60,000. So you see 100% increase. This is totally unacceptable. And you can see these stores. We have uncountable number of other essential commodities which we are taking over the stores now, and we are going to make some certain arrests because this will not be tolerated.
All right, these are some of the thoughts of the chairman of the Kano State Anti-Corruption Commission speaking about some of the findings as they went around Kano to get a sense of what they need, what they can do to stop the unusual and unacceptable rise in the price of some of these commodities. Our phone lines are open. It appears we have someone on the line. Hello, good evening. Okay, feel free to call back. The number is shown on your TV screen. We'd love to get your take, your views on this one. What do you make of the rising cost of living in Nigeria? And of course, what is the experience like for you in your area? Hello, good evening. Welcome to Sunday Politics.
Hello?
Hello, please turn down the volume of your TV set.
Good evening, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Who is on the line and where are you calling from?
My name is Aidi Abdullahi. I'm calling from Kefi in Nasarawa State.
Aidi Abdullahi, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Go ahead. What is your take on what is happening?
Well, generally speaking, it's unfortunate that Nigeria is going through this kind of hardship. Though it is not a new thing. It happened during the early 1994. But what we are witnessing today, in a situation where we are having abundance, we're having a lot of money in the country that is not circulating, is indeed a worrisome issue. Food security that is being emphasized at all levels. In our government circle, we have food security program being promoted by international organizations within the country. There is no state in Nigeria that doesn't have Ministry of Agriculture. There is hardly a state in Nigeria that doesn't have agricultural development program. And we have river basins across the nation. And today, in the 21st century, Nigeria is suffering from hunger. This is very unfortunate. Well, anyway, doctor is there in the studio. I know he is somebody who has been proffering solutions to issues, not only food security, technological, and so on. Our bane is that we just have to find lasting solution to this problem. If this system of government that we are practicing is not working, why can't we go back to the drawing board and evolve a system that will work for us?
Right.
How come 90% of Nigerians are suffering? And, they only care when they see real calamity approaching, attacking them. So I really sympathize with us. And I just don't know what to say, except to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide for the masses.
Right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much for that, and wa alaikum salam. We resort to prayers when apparently there is nowhere else to turn to. But of course, it would be nice to have an actually workable action plan to address this one, because I believe while prayer is well sought, it is not an economic policy that you can rely on. I mean, just to echo his thoughts, there are many Nigerians who they can't seem to explain why we are where we are today. I mean, we're not a war-torn Sudan, for instance. So this hunger, this level of deprivation, this level of inequality in the society cannot really be explained. If you have to pinpoint what the core issue is, how would you explain it to Nigerians?
I think we're very people who get excited by crisis, and then we respond instantaneously. Literally, I'm sorry to say, like window dressing response. I mean, his Kano store, it's okay, I like what the gentleman is doing, but when you look behind him, you will see that the food items are very, very well packaged. They're shining. I don't know whether they are rice or biscuit or whatever, but they look very, very organized. You know what I mean? So in that city, all these stores are there. All these food items are flowing into these stores and being stored, right? What comes out is also coming out, and nobody knows until now. They are just randomly going and opening stores and locking things and then wanting to arrest people.
You think this is a half measure?
I think instantly it's exciting to do it, to get the public to understand that, yes, we're doing something. But as far as I'm concerned, we need to be more organized than that. More organized in the sense that every single...
let's get back to the phone lines for a minute. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Umar Al-Hassan Ahmad. I'm calling from Kano City.
Dr. Umar Al-Hassan, thank you very much for joining us from Kano. Let me get your take on what you make of the state of the nation right now vis-a-vis the food crisis that many Nigerians are faced with.
Honestly speaking, from my view, government is not doing enough to subsidize the food issue and to take care of the food security in the country. We are not seeing any government intervention at the state, local, and whatsoever. My advice to the central government or state government is that government should produce shop or outlet in each and every local government down to ward level to subsidize cereal like maize, millet, rice, and so on and so forth. Government should be selling one mudu for each person, and the NIN number should be used. If you purchase one mudu today, you come back, it will not be sold to you unless next tomorrow, because rich people cannot come and join such kind of queue. Government, they are not serious about it. There is no action at all from federal, state down to local government.
In your state, for instance,
I advise government.
Yeah, Doctor, I was just saying in your state, for instance, we just showed that clip where the Anti-Corruption Commission went around some of the warehouses that they say were hoarding the products, and they are sealing some of them as a measure to address the soaring food prices. What do you make of this particular move?
This is very good development, because if those people in Kano can act as it is supposed to be, the grains and the food
we have lost
out of this crisis.
Right.
Thousands of such kind of stores are available in Kano, and the government knows where it is. What I'm advising government of Kano State to put it as a rule: no one shall have more than 50 bags of rice unless it has a certificate from the government. That government certify you can have it. Anything more than 50 bags of rice or maize, government shall seize it. Because at this time that people are finding it very difficult, some wicked people are busy buying it. There is food in the country, let me tell you. There are thousands of such kind of warehouses in Kano. So government shall act before hunger start killing people on the street. If you see what is happening down to the local government ward level, you will shed tears. Hunger is already ravaging the population, honestly speaking. And unfortunately, government is seen and watching with keen interest. When will government intervene? When will government respond? Is only in Kano State we have such kind of stores? They are available over the federation, I'm telling you.
Right. Thank you very much, Doctor. I really appreciate your passionate contribution to this discussion. Well, keep those thoughts coming in. The number is on your TV screen. Rules of engagement, once again, please turn down the volume of your TV set while calling in so we can have a smooth conversation. What do you make of his point, for instance, about government exerting some level of control to make sure that, listen, while we're not trying to put you out of business, there's a limit to which, because we have to think about the greater good of the society?
I like his comment because he said this is a very good start. But you see, like I said before, when you have a country like ours, so many people, a lot of very high level poverty, these things will happen. People will take advantage of people. But I can tell you, we have reached a point whereby we can approach these things in a very, very well structured manner. All these 1,000 stores that he set in Kano, they should be documented. Their capacity, their location, who owns them, what is inside them, when did it go in, and when has it come. Look, by the time we reach this time now, that kind of information would have told you who is actually holding food.
Yeah, but we've been here before, haven't we? Just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, give or take, when during the NSAS protest, when people were basically running riot across some of these states. Granted that some of the activities were criminally engineered, but you also get a sense that during the COVID-19 experience, a lot of people were, locked up in their homes, hungry, unable to feed their families, and it came to a head during the NSAS protest when warehouses were broken into so people can access some of these items. Isn't it safe to say that the government has not learned, from that experience, and we're seeing this almost repeating itself just 3 years down the line?
Well, I think we're all saying the same thing. I'm a government person, and I don't want to say government doesn't want to do or whatever. Right. I think it's our country that we have to change strategy.
Yeah, just one moment. Let's get back to the phone lines. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, presenter. This is Jimmy Azande, Trust TV correspondent, Benue State.
Right, Jimmy, good to hear from you. I would love to get a situation report from you from Benue. What is it like?
Thank you very much. You see, I like so much, especially the guests in the studio, somebody who is very conversant with the situation at hand. I appreciate what you're doing, Abdullahi. I'd like to tell you that for Benue State in particular, I think a major problem here is the idea of price control. Like the last caller said, I can't tell you that there's no food in Benue State. I think there's enough of it. A big major problem here is the middlemen. You go to the hinterlands because of the bad. It becomes a different tone altogether. So if we can do some more in the area of regulating the prices, I think it will be better for the people. Otherwise, that's what has dominated group discussions in Benue. Right. Nobody is saying any other thing apart from this hike in food prices.
And just give us a sense of how the government is reacting to this obvious open secret that everybody is talking about.
Well, for now, thank you very much. For now, everybody, it has become like a clarion call, but we are waiting for an official statement from the government of Benue State in that direction. We have nothing yet for now, but we are hoping that sooner than later, the attention of the government is already drawn into the situation. We're hoping to get something from that quarters very soon.
It's quite an irony if the food basket of the nation itself is struggling with this particular situation.
That's the unfortunate situation. Pricing, if we can do something in that regard, it will help us here.
Jimmy Azande, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Really appreciate your take on this one. One of the ironies, our reporter just clearly said, you can't say that there's no food in Benue. However, just the fact that it is an agrarian state that is known for producing some of the most sought after produce, it is still grappling with the same situation that if you go into the Far East, whether it's in Oyo State or in Katsina, the same situation is persistent. So how do you explain this?
It's just this. He just hit the nail on the head. It's the middleman who is playing on the intelligence of the poor producer and the market, the buyer in the market, wherever they are located.
And probably the negligent government?
Well, you see, government, yes, exactly. He said so, that the government must know. You see, if I were a governor in Adamawa State, for example, I would stratify all the towns and cities in the state and probably get 3 classes, and say, this is a big town, this is a big town, this is a big town. And I will actually mark out all the markets in the state, every market and the market day. And I will have what I call intelligence of within the market, who is actually buying what and at what price, what volume. Every truck that actually comes to buy yam or potatoes or rice will have to be documented. Me as the governor, I will have a dashboard. I will see the traffic of this. That is how I will see my employment generation. That is how I will see the wealth that I'm creating. That is how I will collect my own taxes and so on and so forth. It's very, very important. But when you just leave it to Ministry of Agriculture and you leave it to the produce department, maybe there are only 3 people. And you now open it up to, I'm sorry to say that, to corrupt practice, because they know the person. He's been there for the last 20 years.
Right. Let's get back to the phone lines one more time. It appears we have someone on the line. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Abdullahi Ahmad and Dr. Umar Bindir.
Right. Who do we have on the line and where are you calling from?
Yeah, speaking to Ali Umar Shamaki from Nasarawa State.
Ali Umar Shamaki, as always, it's good to hear from you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Today's program is a very, very nice program. I concur with the second to the last speaker, the man that called from Kano. Government at one that brought this policy issue of fuel subsidy. As a result of that, we have economic hardship in the country. So government should come up with modality by putting price control. I am telling you, even in Nasarawa State, there are business people that are holding food. They store food in their warehouse or other places, thinking the price of commodity will continue to rise up so that they will go and sell it and get more profit. It's not done that way. So government should speak about this issue by bringing out modality, by putting price control, or take measure by going out to check warehouse all over the country to stop all this menace. This is my contribution this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling us always, Shamaki. Appreciate your your thoughts on this one. The government. I mean, we're sounding like a broken record at this point. But let me just get your take on, how to square this circle, because we already know last year the Food and Agriculture Organization and other United Nations agencies have talked about how 26.5 million Nigerians are at the risk of food insecurity because of the current situation. Now you get a sense that that is not just a projection. It is in fact the current reality that we're living in right now, and it could get worse. What about all these pronouncements about releasing tons of grains from our food reserves? Because this is the emergency situation where the food reserves are supposed to kick in. And what do you make of these delays? And from your experience, is it safe to say that we actually do have food in our reserves?
Well, the reserves, I hope, has also the implication of this kind of storages that are traditionally the food reserves under Federal Ministry of Agriculture. There are strategic grain reserve spots in this country. And I can't remember now, but are they, I don't know the number, but when you are traveling from Yola to Ngurore, you will see the silos and everything. That is a strategic grain reserve. So, and they too, they buy from the markets and then they store. And when things like this happen, they now release it to the markets. But these are shocks based on government. But I like their comment on why should people hold in the first place? Why should you hold when there's a government? The government should make an announcement. I like what the governor of Niger State is doing. People who are owning storage systems, we believe that you have food piled up in your storages. We are now having a statewide check on storages. If we catch food in your own store that you are just hoarding, the penalty is 1, 2, 3, 4. Either we'll take all of it, or we'll pay you half price and take it, or whatever. Then gradually you get this middleman to understand that the government is not going to take nonsense in this type of thing, But henceforth, all these storages should be licensed. Stores for storing maize, there are conditions for that, so that it does not. So all of them should be documented. And henceforth, we should know what is going in and what is going out, when, at what price, so that we can be able to stabilize the food flow in our country.
The administration has set up a committee that's supposed to look into this. This past week when the president returned from his private visit to France. How soon do you think the government is going to get ahead of the situation based on your reading of the current economic climate?
I think if they've not started their work, they should start tomorrow, since tomorrow is Monday. But I think in conducting that, I believe that they have to be stratify the whole thing into 4 sectors. Immediate things that they should do is to ensure that everybody knows what they are doing. Short term, in the next 3 months, they will get these things stabilized so that when the fasting comes, everybody will tell you that, oh yeah, the government has done something. In the next 9 months to 1 year, certain things. But long term, this committee has to ensure that when it comes to food, then the food supply chain has to be known strategically by government. Who is producing? Where is it going to? At what price? So that the farmer is getting adequate amount of benefit, while the middleman is getting the 20-30% that is recommended, so that we can have a stable food security in our country.
All right. The current situation does leave much to be desired, and I must say that the frustrations of millions of Nigerians is quite palpable at this moment in time. Doctor, we're going to have to leave you here for now. Thank you most kindly for the analysis. Really do appreciate you for stopping by this evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. And that is our show for you this week. Thank you very much for your time and contribution as always. We do appreciate you for joining us. A quick reminder, you can follow us as always across our social media platforms to catch up with this and many more contents across our various social media platforms. And do take a look at our website, trusttv.com, for more news, contents and documentaries. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. I'll see you next week.